ever meet those people who say they were born in the wrong decade? I know, I hate those people too. I never think that, and I like to keep thinking that. But that doesn't stop me from wondering, not being born in the wrong decade. What would that be like? And this movie answers the question. What it would probably be like if I, or most people, I guess, were born in the 1960s. Because this movie does a fantastic job exploring this era around the launch of the Apollo 11 and the unknown Apollo 10 and a half. Richard Linklater, or later, I don't know how to pronounce names. You should be used to this by now. Wrote and directed this movie, which is a director I don't think most casual movie-going folks know of, or at least on the level of, say, Tim Burton, who he's made as almost as many films as him, but very few, in my opinion, remained as talked about or relevant as his movies, at least to me and the people I know. But I would love to see more of his movies, Dazed and Confused, Boyhood, and so forth. But the only other movie I saw by him is probably his most popular film, School of Rock. Speaking of which, Jack Black stars in this movie too. He's given the A treatment for the names in the trailer, but he'll be the voice you hear the most. And if you haven't seen the trailer or saw it and thought it was going to be one thing, trust me when I say you should probably go in knowing what this movie is really about. So, the movie is an animated film using the style of rotoscope, which he's used for Walking Life and A Scanner Darkly, which I also hope to see soon enough. I'm sorry I haven't seen more of your movies, okay? Please forgive me, Richard. But as I was saying, Jack Black narrates a nostalgic look back in the 1960s during a child's viewpoint around the end of the decade with the launch of the Apollo 11. But the advertising might make it look like it's actually about the child character at the center, Stan, played by Milo Coy, with Black being the voice of Stan's older self, saying how he was chosen for a top secret project to be the first kid in space, the Apollo 10 and a half mission, which is barely a part of the movie, especially the first half. So I feel like the advertising or the trailers I saw at least might have misled some people to thinking what this is about. And this isn't a spoiler, you can guess this is the truth immediately, and they put this in the behind the scenes video on Netflix's YouTube channel. The mission is part of the kid's imagination, which makes the most sense. But from the advertising, you think that's the focal point, or I feel at least. I don't blame Linklater or any of the cast and crew, since the movie is clearly just Linklater looking back at his childhood. That's it, and I mean, that's it. That's what the movie is. The movie doesn't really have a plot, at least for the first half, since it's just Jack Black narrating over what it was like to have grown up in the 60s with Stan's family of two adults and him, youngest of 6 siblings, showing how so much was different, more reckless, less nuanced, but so much was new for him. How living in Houston, Texas in 1969 was like when with the true chance that people really land on the moon. What that feels like. I always thought it would be cool to be there when it happened, seeing people walk on the moon for the first time, but not really thinking of what it truly would have felt like, not knowing how much we had come since. It does a real great job showing what it really was like as a child then, since, while not perfect and Stan himself isn't from a perfect family, he does have a family who care for him. Sometimes they tease him, most of the time they clearly love him. And for the first half, after they literally give you the setup, he's chosen to be on the Apollo 10 and a half mission, he just talks about life back then. No single story to connect. He talks about one thing like music, then movies, family time, school, his siblings, other kids he knows. And I feel like it being pretty scattershot won't work for many. But as someone who didn't grow up in this time period, the way the movie is written, the gorgeous animation, the animation is beautiful. I can already tell this is going to be one of my favorite animated movies of the year. One of the most distinct animated movies I'd seen personally in a while. That sure I see in movies like The Spy at Night, which I still highly recommend. But here it feels like this really was this time period. And sure, I didn't live in that time period, so what do I know? But how visually it's shown, combined with how it's told, thanks to the charming voice of Jack Black, that's a quote to be taken out of context, I was invested from beginning to end, and I loved learning so much about this era, Stan's childhood. It was fascinating. Then, during the second half, it kind of goes back to the Apollo 10 and a half mission, which I just realized I didn't explain why as a kid he was chosen to go to the moon, and to that I say it doesn't matter. It's meant to parallel as the actual Apollo 11 mission happens. We see how he thinks it would have gone down if he was there. And I'll say this, if there's anything I had a problem with the movie, many of the expressions weren't as expressive, I guess, for lack of a better word, as I like, since even the imagination scenes or not, Stan should be more amazed, I guess, being on the moon. But it does also hint how he's playing it so confident and cool for his imaginary mission. I could see that being the reason why. I don't know. But back to what I like about the movie. So during the second half, Black narrates his childhood, and you truly get the importance of the moon launch. And I loved learning so much during this era how some people didn't even think it mattered, but for Stan, everything mattered. The friends, the family, seeing sci-fi movies, and just about going to the moon. Classic TV shows, classic movies on television, even the importance of The Wizard of Oz, which are all rotoscope. Like, they take classic movies and rotoscope over it. And it was fascinating to see so many classic movies featured in this film in that style. And I can appreciate the hard work in this movie. I don't know if I can call the film phenomenal. Like, I personally don't have much of a problem with it since the rotoscope animation created this era, childhood family. I loved watching it. But it's scattershot. There's no real story I would be rewatching again. But I do recommend this movie to anyone either to learn what the 1960s was like. It's better than some documentaries I've seen. I mean, I can't say I know that many documentaries off my head to list as examples. And if you don't like this movie, I get it. 100% I get why. So I don't really know what to think of it now, but I respect this movie more than I probably should. So in the end, I'll say this movie does a great job doing what it set out to do. Also, it's the best space movie I've seen this week compared to Moonshot or Moonfall. Maybe the skill here is not actually having moon in the title. I don't know. I just don't know. I give Apollo 10.5 an 8.5 out of 10.